Hey, everybody, Trey Wingo here. Glad you're with us. So I wanted to throw something else up on the channel because I can and I want to, and I can do that now. So, for a lot of years, I got a chance to talk football every week with my guy, my work wife for 13, 14, 15 years, Mark Schlereth. And now I can do that again. So we're going to do it again. What's up, buddy? How we doing, Stank?
Man, I am doing great. Always good to be with you. It's so much like this is awesome. It
Yeah.
is awesome to get to talk to you. Like we did this forever.
Yeah.
And it's funny because this is a little bit more like instead of being on TV, this is more like what we used to talk about back in the green room. The shit that you couldn't say on television.
Correct.
Right? So this will be a blast. And
Yeah.
life has changed. I mean, life for me has changed from being out of studio to being connected with coaches and with players and to get the insight that a lot of times you just didn't get as a studio analyst. So I'm excited about it.
Yeah, so we're doing this, and I'm excited about it. So we'll get into all the fun stuff and the interesting and the stats. But first, we have to talk poop because you and I have a theory: poop is never not funny. And obviously, poop was a big part, we believe, of what happened in the Monday night game between the Ravens and the Browns. Now, Lamar Jackson is saying he didn't pull a Paul Pierce. But remember, Paul Pierce specifically pooped his own shorts, and that's why he had to be. So you can have to go poop and not actually pull a Paul Pierce. So do we believe it was cramps or do we believe it was something else?
Listen, I am the Jason Bourne of shitting my pants. Like I know where there's a bathroom 24/7. I mean, I have a sixth sense about where the bathroom is. That waddle that you saw running in the locker room,
Clenching.
I had that through Chicago O'Hare a week ago. I was all the way through O'Hare until I found a restroom. So I know that waddle. I know that walk. I've been there before. Now, I am notorious for pissing my own pants during games.
With a towel there just to make sure.
Right. I used to do that with every game, and I would just go in my pants. But I have this other theory that I like to call leaves in the gutter. So anytime that you're having some issues down there from maybe a flu bug or whatever, you wad some toilet paper, put it in your crack, and it eliminates the spotting effect in case you do have a wet one. So that looked to me not to be cramps. I mean, it's dead of winter. It's cold outside. That's not when you get cramps, although Lamar is a freak show athlete. And there is no question. It's always amazing, Trey, when you watch the best athletes in the world compete and one guy looks like a much better athlete than the best athletes in the world on the same field. He's phenomenal. Unbelievable.
He is. So before we actually get into this, I do have to tell the greatest poop story of all time because poop is never not funny.
Yeah, it's always
our longtime teammate at ESPN, Merrill Hodge, tells this story all the time. And there was a game against the Eagles and the Steelers were down. And that's when the Eagles had the Eagles defense of the 90s. Clyde Simmons, Mike Pitts, Golick, Reggie White, Seth Joyner, all those guys. Just total.
Hey, that was like a Sesame Street thing. One of these things is not like the other.
I know, but I like to include him in. I like to throw him in because he's a friend.
I love you, Mike Golick.
So they're losing big at the start of the third quarter or the start of the fourth quarter. I can't remember. And it's like a 3rd and 20 and they call a draw, right? The draw is the give up play. It's 3rd and 17. Nobody falls for a draw on 3rd and 17. So Merrill's like, damn it. I know what's going to happen. I'm going to get mad. But you know what? I'm going to hit them as hard as they're going to hit me. So Merrill takes the ball, runs smack dab into Clyde Simmons, Mike Pitts, Reggie White, Mike Golick. And he said it was like hitting a wall. And he said, all the muscles in my body relaxed. And as he's walking back to the sidelines, he's like, I think I might have just pooped my pants. So he goes to Tunch Ilkin. By the way, still the greatest name ever for an offensive lineman, Tunch Ilkin. Says, hey, Tunch, can you check? I think I crap my pants. And Tunch looks, goes, no, you're fine. He goes, what about if I take my stance? And he gets down in his stance like, yeah, you definitely did. So he plays the rest of the game with his jersey out to cover the poop stain in his pants. And then at the end of the game, when you give your clothes to the trainer or the equipment guy, he just goes, sorry, man.
Sorry.
My bad. I couldn't hold it.
Threw him away. Like, yeah, we're good. We're good, man.
So now that we've gotten that out of the way, that was an incredible Monday night game, right? Did we learn more about the Ravens or the Browns in that game?
I think I learned more about the Browns in that game. I think the Ravens are kind of, they are who we thought they are, and we let them off the hook. They're the Denny Green of football. Like the Ravens are a team when they're running the ball well, I call it a heavy spread, Trey. So one of the things they do, if you split the football field in half, right down the middle, you're pretty even or pretty balanced on both sides, right? You may have 4 defenders on one side, 5 defenders on the other side, and then, a couple of deep safeties, right? That's kind of how it works. And so, or if you got a single high safety, you got 6 on one side and 5 on the, or 5 on one side, 4 on the other, and a single high safety. I don't think I did my math right. Whatever 11 equals.
It's not your strong
Let's
suit.
just, no, whatever 11 equals, that's what you got. Yeah. And one of the things they do, they motion so fast with fullbacks, they motion with tight ends or receivers. And what they end up doing is they end up inevitably motioning to one side of the field, the weak side of the field, where you have the least amount of defenders, and they get like 5 on 4, or they get 6 on 5. And then Lamar becomes a extra running back. So It's not even like 11 on 11 football. Like normally when you run it's like 12 on 11 football. Like normally you're running 10 on 11, right? Mm-hmm. In a normal, because the quarterback isn't effective in there. Well, with him running it, man. So they get these matchups on each side. I call it this heavy spread offense. And when they're operating that way, you have to assign extra defenders in the box to stop the running game. And that's where he's effective throwing the ball. He's effective throwing the ball in situations where you get one-on-ones down the seam, like that Hollywood Brown throw he made when he came in after he'd been out for a while, 2 minutes.
The one he caught. The one he actually caught on Monday night.
The one he actually caught. But when he's throwing it down the seam, or he's throwing the shallow crosses to his tight end Andrews, they're unstoppable. Where he struggles is when they don't run the ball, and all of a sudden you have to throw it from a traditional against the zone, layered routes, in front of or behind the linebackers, in front of the safeties. That's not his strong suit. So that played out exactly the way it always plays out with the Ravens. What I have found intriguing is the Browns, not only do they run the ball, but Baker Mayfield has been outstanding in the boot keep game, in the movement game, and then climbing the pocket and throwing while he's climbing the pocket. I thought he was exceptional last night. I think I learned more about Cleveland's ability offensively to have not only the run, but the pass, the play action, all those things combined to be able to score in that way. And it wasn't that way in the middle of the season. They were still finding themselves after they lost OBJ. So I think I learned a lot more about Cleveland in this game than I did Baltimore.
Yeah, 9 rushing touchdowns in that game. That hadn't happened since 1922 when Jaws was playing. So
yes,
I will say this about the Ravens, and I think that the mistake they made going into the season, because last year they ran for 212 yards a game, threw it for 237. Everyone was like, "Oh, look, balance, 212 on the ground, 237 in the air." 237 on the air is not great. Let's just be honest. That's 237 a game. It's nothing in today's NFL. And I always have a problem with someone or a team that says, okay, we did this one thing incredibly off the charts well. Phenomenal, better than ever. We averaged 212 yards rushing. Well, we'll just do that again, and then we'll just get better in the passing game. That never happens. And I think the mistake the Ravens have made going into this season is, well, we'll still be this incredible running team, and we'll just get better in the passing game. No, your history told us you were going to be less than that in the rushing game this year, and that's going to have an ancillary effect on your passing game.
Yeah, I don't think there's any question. And they still, even though Lamar, has I think gotten better over time, they're still not a traditional drop back. They're not effective in that. And I think I think it's more than Lamar. I don't think they've got, from a receiving core. I think they're limited there. I think there's a lot of things that go into that.
Hollywood's hit or miss,
So there's a lot of things that they have to, again, they're going to get to the playoffs. Nobody wants to face them. But if you can shut down their running game and say, hey, Lamar, you're going to have to beat us throwing the ball, and you're going to have to beat us throwing the ball into zone coverage, that's when I think they're going to struggle.
Yeah. And I think this weekend, you mentioned the playoffs. I think we saw a lot of the AFC playoff picture come into shape, right? Because you had the Browns and the Ravens play. You had the Colts take on the Raiders and take them down. You had Pittsburgh lose in Buffalo. And then you had the Chiefs find a way to win in Miami. And I got to tell you, I don't think there's another team in football that would have gone to Miami, had 4 turnovers, 2 of them inside the 10-yard line, also have a 30-yard sack and find a way to win. So this is like a really backhanded compliment to Miami. Nobody else is winning that game except the Kansas City Chiefs. I think we can all agree now the Chiefs are probably the best team in football, and the AFC playoff picture is more than likely to go through Arrowhead.
Yeah, I don't think there's any question. I think the Chiefs are so interesting to me because defensively they'll give up a lot of plays, but they make just enough big plays to put their offense in a good position. And then they make enough plays on special teams. And then when you look at them offensively, just all the playmakers and their ability. And, everybody thinks it's speed and athleticism, and that has a lot to do with it. But they are so good at attacking you and almost flipping the switch. And it's so, they attack the middle of the field with a Travis Kelce. Then all of a sudden they run a jet sweep with Tyreek Hill, and he goes 40 yards down the sideline, and could just outrun everybody. He's like the Lamar Jackson of wide receivers. He's just the fastest guy on the football field in pads that you will ever see. So they have so much talent, and they make so many big plays, but they make them at every level, like the special teams, defense, and offense. And so whatever they lack in consistency, and they do that sometimes, and I think some of it is almost boredom. Like, we know how good we are.
Thank you. And listen, I'm glad you said that because you've lived what they're trying to do. You won back-to-back Super Bowls, okay? So I think people don't understand what I'm talking about when I say that. But when you say it because you played, I think people will get it. You get bored in the regular season when you know how good you are, and all you want to do is get through these friggin' games healthy so you can show everybody when it matters how good we are, right?
Yeah. I think there's a lot to it. They know that they are that good. They know that they're playing with a unicorn at quarterback. They know that they've got that much talent on the offensive side of the ball. And they're just like, hey, listen, when we need to flip the switch, we'll just flip the freaking switch. Yeah. And we'll hang 30 on you. And that's the thing that's fascinating to me about the Kansas City Chiefs. Like I said, they make big plays in every facet. Last week, they get an interception, right? They get, a sack when they need a sack. Right. Yeah. They return the thing for a touchdown. They get the punt return for a touchdown. All right. They just are able to make big plays. And the thing that's interesting about them is even when they're stagnant or bored and they don't put some drives together, all of a sudden they'll flip it and say, hey, man, we're going to put 3 plays together, 1 minute and 12 seconds, and we're going to score a touchdown. Now what? What are you going to do about it? Yeah. And so even if you limit them to a degree, and the big theory is, and I went through every loss they had the last 2 years, Trey. I went through the tape on every loss they had the last 2 years. And every team essentially did the same thing to them. They possessed the ball. Now, not the same way. Right. They possessed the ball. They ran the ball. They possessed the clock. And almost every loss was identical in that it was like 40 to 20 minutes of time of possession, right? Every team possessed the ball. They churned first downs. The Chargers beat them, and it was like a 31-29 score, something like that. The Chargers beat them. They had 29 first downs, and most of all of it was in the passing game, short passing game. But whatever it is, they possessed the ball. And even in that, every loss but one, it was to the Indianapolis Colts. I believe it was 19-13, something like that. Every other game, Trey, played out the exact same way. And in every game, Kansas City scored about 30 points. Yeah. And it just came down to, did we get the ball last or did we not get the ball last? Yeah. And that's how it broke down. So they're going to score regardless.
Yeah. The thing that most amazes me about that is since the start of 2019, including the postseason, the worst thing you can do is get up on the Chiefs by double digits. They are 8-2 in games where they have trailed by double digits, and they're like, whatever, we're good. And the Monday night game, week 3, I thought was critical. The Ravens went down, or just showed this really well. The Ravens went down the field, took like 7-8 minutes off the clock, kicked a field goal. The Chiefs were like, cool. They scored a touchdown in 2.5 minutes, and they were never behind in that game again.
Right. Well, that's them. Like, oh, we're down by 2 touchdowns. Okay, let's flip the switch. We're down by 10. Okay, it's time to start playing. Like, you want to keep it close, 3 points all the way, just to keep them asleep on the sideline, right? Yeah, just right. Nappy time. It's going to be okay.
We're not really winning. We're just hanging with you guys.
You're right. Right.
So with that being said, you think Cleveland's going to be tough in the postseason. What do we think of 2 other teams that can do that? Tennessee, even though the Tennessee Titans lost in the AFC title game a year ago, when again, they twice had double-digit leads? Or what about Buffalo with the way Josh Allen is playing?
Yeah, Tennessee's interesting to me because I still
Pendulum
question.
swings, man. Pendulum
Right.
swings.
They have terrible defensive performances at times. And I just keep thinking, if you shut down King Henry, do you have enough offense to overcome with Tannehill? And there's just part of me that just doesn't feel like that's part of what they have a formula. And if they can't adhere to the formula, they're going to have troubles to me. Buffalo is interesting to me because Buffalo, I think, is very balanced. What they did to Pittsburgh, and I thought this was really interesting because Pittsburgh at what are they, 11-2?
Yep.
Feel like a team that's going to be one and done in the playoffs to me.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons I say that is because they have gotten away from
running.
You think about,
they don't run the football ever.
And here's the thing. It's like, I don't even know that you have to, like, I always believe you have to run the football when you have to run the football.
Yeah.
You got to run the football in the red zone. You got to run the football in conversion, second down and short, third down and short. You've got to be able to. So it's not really about running the football. It's about capturing the line of scrimmage on both defensive side and offensive side. And they choose not to. I did a breakdown because I was going to do a Pittsburgh game. Then I got switched to Seattle. But I did a breakdown of the Pittsburgh offense. And they spent more time in 4 and 5 wides than any other team I saw in football. And when I saw the Bills the other night play them on Sunday Night Football, how much press coverage did you see? How much disruption of routes? So there's 2 ways to defend a team that wants to throw it short, throw it underneath. Disrupt the routes and then win the line of scrimmage. And they do that well enough to stymie the Steelers' offense. And then Josh Allen hangs in there, does his thing. He is just like, his progression has been amazing to where he used to be, hey, let's design 10 runs for you. Let's not throw it more than 22 times and let's see what happens. Now, all of a sudden they're saying, hey, we'll throw it 45 times with our quarterback because he's progressed to that point where he can lead us in that way. And you want to talk about one of the great trades in football in recent years, going and getting Stephon Diggs. Yep. I mean, when they got Stephon Diggs,
are happy with Justin Jefferson with the pick that they got too.
Sure.
So that is a win-win trade.
Yeah, no question about it. But the Bills intrigued me a lot because I think Josh Allen obviously can cut you up throwing the football, but he's big, he's strong, he can motor through the pocket, he can get you some key first downs with his legs. They're an intriguing football team to me.
Yeah, and nothing happens in a vacuum, right? If they don't have Diggs, they don't develop Dawson Knox and get Cole Beasley for the easy stuff underneath, Josh Allen isn't having this progression. That's why wins and losses are not a quarterback stat. I will die on that hill, okay?
Yeah.
It's just the way it is. Everybody else matters on the team. So that leads us to the NFC, and you did the game between the Lions and the Packers on Sunday. First of all, Matthew Stafford never gets the credit he deserves. That guy, I mean, he was so hurt on that last touchdown drive, and he could tell he stayed in the game. I mean, that guy is as tough as nails. But do we trust Green Bay more than anybody now, especially with the outlier that we don't know what's happening at the quarterback situation for the Saints with Drew Brees? Because they lost for the first time in the last 2 years with a backup. They were 5-0 last year with Teddy Bridgewater. They were 3-0 before last Sunday's game with Taysom Hill. So do we think the Packers, or is it the Bucs, who once again, talk about a pendulum swinging team, man? 1 week they look like world beaters. The next week it's like Tom looks lost in that offense.
Yeah, I think right now, it's funny you bring it up, but I think, having done several New Orleans games, I thought New Orleans was the best overall team. When you start looking at their roster construction, they've got, their right tackle and their left tackle in Armstead and Ramczyk. They're all pro players. Their centers and a Pro Bowl player. Their left guard's a Pro Bowl player. Their running back in Kamara is a all-pro player. Drew Brees is a all-pro player, right? Mike Thomas is a all-pro player. They've got Emmanuel Sanders is a Pro Bowl player. Jared Cook is a Pro Bowl player, right? And then you flip over to the defense, right? I mean, Cam Jordan is an all-pro player. Trey Hendrickson's one of the top sack guys in the National Football League. How do you say his name? Oyamata or whatever his name is.
That's it.
Yeah, he's playing at a Pro Bowl level. DeMarco Davis is an all-pro. Demario Davis is an all-pro player. Marshawn Lattimore is an all-pro player. Malcolm Jenkins is an all-pro. Like they are so loaded on both sides of the ball. It'll be interesting to see how Drew Brees, how he comes back, how healthy is he? Can they push the ball down the field a little bit more with Drew Brees? Green Bay right now, to me, with the way Aaron Rodgers is playing, and he's an MVP, man. He is an absolute freak show. He said something to me this weekend. I spent probably 45 minutes on a Zoom call with Aaron Rodgers.
Nice.
And he said something to me this weekend that fascinated me, Trey. And I've talked to several coordinators about this over the course of the year. He said, when I was trained by Tom Clement, who's the quarterback coach at Arizona now, because when I was trained in protections and fronts and how fronts tie to the back end. And he goes, and quarterbacks aren't taught that anymore. They're taught to look at the secondary, right? Are my corners in press? Are their hips to the sideline opened up? Is there a single high or a two high safety look? Is it closed or opened, right? And all these different things that you're trained to look at. And he said, the first thing I was trained to look at is the front. So if they're in an under for a 25 front, what coverage do they play in a 25 front? What coverage do they play in a 57 front? What coverage do they play in a 45 or 49 or what? And he went through this, and it was fascinating to me. So he goes, now, even if I turn my back, I'm under center, and I turn my back to fake a handoff, and I go back, if I find 25 front, even if they give me disguise off the bat, I know that this is the coverage they play out of that front. So even when I'm not looking at it, I know what it's going to end up being. And it was fascinating to talk football. At one point, he started talking about how Detroit might play him. And he goes, it's new because Patricia's not there, so it's not going to be as exotic. And then he just starts staring off into space going, well, would they play me in man coverage? I mean, they play me in man. I mean, I'll just like, and he's just talking to himself. He gets into
you're just there, and he's having random thoughts with Aaron.
Right, exactly. He goes, but would they actually just try to play me in zone? I mean, that's death by 1,000 paper cuts. Like they can't do right. And it was just such a fascinating conversation to listen to him to go through that. But here's the thing that intrigues me about, very much like Kansas City, about Green Bay. Because I'm talking to Corey Unlin, is the defense coordinator of Detroit. He goes, here's the deal. Here's the recipe for success for us. Okay. We've got to obviously produce on the offensive side of the ball, but we have to get a couple of third down and long situations. He goes, if they get into 2nd down and 4, I might as well just give them a first down. It's like the intentional walk. Just take another first down. Let's start over. Okay. So 2nd down and 4, they'll cut us apart. So he's like, I got to get a couple of third down and longs and get off the football field. Then he goes, when I get into the red zone, I've got to get 1 or 2 stops in the red zone and make them kick 2 field goals. And he goes, and then 1 turnover. If I can get 1 turnover, he goes, that's my recipe. And he goes, and guess what? He's still going to hang freaking 30 on us.
Yeah.
He'll still score 30 on us, even if we do all those things. So then we're going to have to offensively, we're going to have to put a game together. So, I mean, he is playing at that kind of level right now.
And by the way, just kudos to Devontae Adams. He might be the most reliable receiver in football right now. 8 straight games with a touchdown catch, which is absolutely remarkable. So that leads to what the conversation is now about the MVP, because I think we all agree right now it's a 2-horse race between Patrick Mahomes and Aaron Rodgers. But we still have 3 weeks left in the season. Do you think there is a third party that can jump into it? Because one name, I don't think it's Russell. I think that has come and gone. But I do think there's one player that we've discussed that had, and listen, let's be honest, the MVP is who's the best quarterback on the team with the best record. We all understand that because Aaron Donald is probably the best player in football every bleeping year, and he's never going to win the MVP if he didn't win it as an interior lineman when he had 20-plus sacks, getting double teamed 33% of the time. So is there a player that you believe can crack into that duo over the final 3 weeks of the season? Because I have one name.
I don't believe anybody else will crack in there. King Henry,
Josh Allen is the one that I give a puncher's chance. If he lights it up for 3 more weeks, and let's say Mahomes throws 2 more interceptions against the Saints, and maybe they lose a game,
right?
And then maybe that conversation is there. But I think he's the only guy that has a chance.
Yeah, I'll give you that. Although I just don't, how the TV game works, right?
Yeah.
About the markets and about national television. And even though they've been on Sunday Night Football and they've been on Monday Night Football in consecutive weeks, people still don't know the Bills.
Yeah.
Like I'm doing the Bills game this weekend. I've got the Saturday game against the Broncos and Bills. And they're a team that I'm like, damn, I really don't know their roster very well. Not like I know other rosters. And so there's probably not enough groundswell on the national scene to really propel him. Now, if Aaron Rodgers takes a step back, if like you said, if Patrick Mahomes takes a step back and he goes crazy bonkers for the next 3 weeks in a row, then maybe you've got a chance. But come on, what does Aaron Rodgers have? I think 38 TDs and 4 interceptions, or 39 TDs. No, he's got 4. He went in 4 with this weekend. He didn't throw a pick.
All right. So, yes, Mahomes actually has more picks than him, and Mahomes has more yards. Like, Mahomes just went through 6 straight games, and he threw for over 2,300 yards, the highest 6-game total in NFL history. So, like, if you had to pick, look, I think it's going to be one of those guys. Put it this way. I'm almost certain it's going to be one of those 2 guys. If you had to pick your powder blue Denver Broncos helmet on the line behind you, who's going to win it? Who would it be?
Aaron Rodgers.
Really?
I just think, like, hey, listen, man, you can go through Kansas City's offense. They did it last year, and say, how are you going to cover Kelsey? How are you going to cover, Tyreek Hill? How, you got Watkins, all first rounders, right? Aaron Rodgers, I think, is throwing like 3 touchdowns to first-round draft choices in his career.
Yeah,
and
but
they're
you know that's
Mercedes
kind of
Lewis.
bogus, because sometimes first-rounders suck, right? And Sammy Watkins is a very average first-rounder, and Devontae Adams is one of the best second-rounders of all time.
I understand that, but I'm saying, well, if you put player
Laquan
for player,
Treadwell was a first-round wide receiver.
Wait, if you put player for player, Devontae Adams, okay, and I'll go Travis Kelce, that's a wash. Yeah. Now tell me who's got the better roster around him.
Fair, completely fair.
Okay, Alan Lazard, or you got
Marquez Valdez, Tunyon Tutties. Let's go.
Tunyon. He was at Indiana State at Larry Bird School. He was a quarterback.
Yeah.
That guy was a quarterback, and then they transitioned him to wide receiver. He never even played tight end until he got into the NFL. Yeah. He was a wideout. So, ridiculous. Yeah.
So, yeah, I think I'm with you. Look, I was all in on Mahomes, and I didn't think it was particularly close. But when he threw 3 interceptions in the game and took a 30-yard sack, and Aaron had a very effective game, although I do believe that Miami is a much tougher opponent than Detroit. I mean, I'm sorry.
Well, I don't think there's no question about that. I will completely agree with you on that.
I mean, I don't know there's another player that can lead his team back from being down 10 to up 20 in a span of a quarter and a half, other than Patrick Mahomes. So,
right.
But again, it's not just him. It's not just him.
Yeah. By the way, the 3 picks, 2 of them were off the hands of his receivers, right? Yeah. On a tight end screen and then a little dump off to the running back. So 2
Although
picks.
He threw I will say he threw that one high.
He did throw that one high.
The one that was incredible was the Xavier Howard one where he went full Spider-Man, because that looked like any other cornerback. That's a touchdown to Tyreek Hill.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm with you on that one. That one was incredible. But
and I don't know if Miami's making the playoffs, but I would be very interested if they do get in, because I think a lot of teams, they destroyed the Rams when they played them. Almost the same philosophy, All right, we could do this for hours, but I know you got other shit you got to do. So you got the game Saturday on NFL Network, Broncos and on Bills, right?
Yeah, Broncos and Bills Saturday on NFL Network.
And you're not doing nothing on Sunday?
Nothing. I'm going to hang out and get fat on Sunday.
Loser. Right, brother, we're doing this because we can, and damn it, that's the way things are going. So we're going to throw it up on your YouTube channel and my YouTube channel. If you like it, awesome. If you don't, we don't care. We just wanted to do